All right, who wants to talk about arm knitting? So I tried it this week. I was a little bit skeptical. Of course, I found it on Pinterest and it was one of those things I'm like, oh, I want to do one of these days. I'll get around to it. Well, this week I finally decided to do it. I love scarves. Maybe I have a problem with them, but I figured I want to learn how to do this, at least make one, see if I can do it, and then I can check that off the to-do list. So I found a tutorial online, made one, loved it, took me only about a half hour to do, and was super impressed, and I've been making a couple since, doing some different things, and want to show you guys how easy it is, how inexpensive it is, and also hopefully add to your scarf collection as well. So when you're getting ready to start this, what you want to know is that you don't need a whole lot of supplies. You need 2 arms, because that's what you're using as your tools, guys. No needles, nothing crazy. You're just using your arms to actually knit them on, which I'll show you how to do in a second. You also want to get 2 skeins of yarn. Now, I know it's going to sound weird, but I am not into any of this kind of stuff. I do not like to knit or crochet. That's not my game. So this is brand new to me. So I didn't even know they were called a skein until I started trying to make my own scarf. So a skein is this here. These are 2 skeins. Let's just call it what it is. It's a ball of yarn. All right, so you have 2 balls of yarn. Now, what I recommend you getting, guys, is the bulkiest kind you can get. I've made a couple so far. I got a really bulky, kind of just a neutral color that I made one with. This here is a super soft, I think it's called blanket yarn or something, but it is a thicker kind of diameter when you look at the actual yarn itself. And that's what you want to look for. The chunkier the yarn, the chunkier the scarf is going to be. So you definitely want, I mean, if you don't want a chunky scarf, I guess you could get something smaller, but it's definitely going to be easier. And you're going to want to have 2 of these because you're going to be working off 2 of them together. Something I want to mention to you, if you are shopportunistic like I am, use coupons. I don't care if you go to Jillian Fabrics, Michaels, Hobby Lobby, whatever. You can go online, print off a half off coupon, troll the ads, see when the yarn's on sale, half off, and get it then. That way you're not spending very much. For this yarn right here, guys, I spent about $13. And I've already made 1 scarf off of this, and it's probably going to make 2 more. So when you think about cost effectiveness, it's really cost effective to make your own scarf, especially if you like doing this kind of stuff. So that's what you're going to need, guys. 2 skeins of yarns, your arms, and let's do this, okay? All right, guys, so if you already have opened your skeins of yarn like I have to use another, or to make another scarf, you may have your ends wrapped around, but if you just got a brand new skein, you want to go ahead and just pull them out. They'll be at the end because the 2 ends are going to be what we call a tail. And you want to make sure that they're symmetrical and right next to each other. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull out about 6 feet of yarn. You just want to kind of measure it. It's okay if it's a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, but that's going to be known as your tail. You're going to put that off to the side. The other 2 balls of yarn, you just want to kind of make sure that they're a little bit looser, because what we're going to do first is make a slip knot. If you've never made a slip knot before, it's really easy. What you want to do is take your palm of your hand and you want to wrap the yarn around it and then just loop it through the back. And as you loop it through the back, this is what a loose slip knot's going to look like. You're just going to pull it, not super tight though, because you're going to actually put this on your wrist, and if it's too tight, you're not going to be able to move the stitches from one arm to another, which is how we're going to actually be knitting the scarf. So now that you have it, you want to go ahead and put the first loop, which that's what this is going to be, on the dominant arm that you're going to be using to knit. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be using my right arm, but you can definitely start on your left hand if it's easier. What you want to do then is make sure that you have the tail off to the side, and then of course your working yarn, which is attached to the balls of yarn, off to the other side, so you have a V underneath your loop. And what you want to do is you're going to want to come down in between the V with your hand kind of like this. You're going to come in between the V. So in between it, you're going to have your forefinger and your thumb. Your 3 outer fingers will be on the outside of the working yarn line, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to pull the loop down. As you can see, the tail, you're going to actually grab, just slow-mo again, with your 3 fingers, you're going to grab the tail yarn, and then you're going to make it into a slingshot. So you're going to, just real quick showing you again, come in like this underneath the V. With your 3 outer fingers, you're going to grab the tail yarn that's underneath your thumb, pull it towards you, so it's like a slingshot. Now we're going to start making the loops that we're going to be using for the scarf. You can use as many of these as you want. I recommend about 6 or 7 of these, and the length of your scarf is going to be something that we're going to figure out next. But as far as your width, this is going to help you with that. So what you want to do to make your first loop, which I again am going to be making 6, is you want to take your fingers that are on your dominant hand, you're going to go underneath the yarn loop attached to your thumb, and then you're going to go over the yarn on your forefinger, and you're going to pull your hand through onto your wrist. That's going to form, guys, your second loop, and you're going to pull it tight but not super tight. And as you can see, I've got 1, 2 loops there. I'm going to show you guys again because we're going to make 4 more of these. Come in between the V, grab your outer fingers. They're going to also grab the thumb there, pull it like a slingshot under the thumb, over the forefinger, onto your wrist. Now we have 3. I'm going to move a little bit quicker here, guys. So once you get the hang of it, you can move faster and get this done much quicker. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Under, over, pull onto the wrist. And the last one I'm going to do, under, over, onto the wrist. Oops. All right, so once you have your 6 loops on here, what we need to do is transfer them to the other arm. And this is where we're going to start adding length to your scarf. Remember, you have your tail off to the side. For me, it's off to my left. And then you have your working yarn, which is over here to my right. I'm just going to pull a little bit out to make sure that it's looser because we're going to be using that now. You want to use your working yarn. Again, that's what's attached to the balls of yarn. You want to have that in the arm that has the loops on it. So since I'm starting with the right, that's going to be my right hand. If you did start on your left hand side, you want to make sure this is on your left hand side. And what we're now going to do is take each loop one by one. We're going to pull it off of our wrists, still holding the working yarn in our hand. And as we pull it over our knuckles, we're going to pull up the working yarn. So as you can see, it's making a little bit of a loop here. What we're going to then do is slip our left hand through that and just tighten it a little bit. And that's how we transfer everything back and forth. That's essentially what the rest of this is going to be until we seal off all of the stitches. So again, you're holding the working yarn in your hand. Take the next loop, which remember, guys, the loop has 2 strands of yarn since we are using the bulky yarn. Pull it over the knuckle. Create that loop. Left hand goes through it and just pull it. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to do. The hardest part is just casting those stitches onto your initial arm like we just did. Again, over the knuckles, pull your working yarn up, left wrist through that. And then the last stitch. We now have everything on our left arm. As you can see, we have the start of the scarf hanging out there. To get it back to your right arm, which is now the rest of what we're going to be doing, just going back and forth until you reach your desired length, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. Keep the working yarn in your left hand since all the stitches are on your left hand. You're going to pull it over your knuckles, create that loop with the working yarn, and put your right wrist through it. Pull a little bit tight. Same, create the little loop. Wrist is going through it. Over the knuckles, loop, wrist, pull the working yarn. And the final stitch on the left arm, wrist through it, and as you can see, starting to get some length there. All right, once you reach your desired length, of course, guys, you can do as long or as short as you want, you're going to want to bind the stitches off. So what we want to do to bind the stitches off, you want to act like you're going to put another row onto the opposite arm that you have all your stitches on, just like we've been doing, the basic loop. You only want to do 2 of those. Once you get the second one on, what you're going to do is you're going to take the second loop, not the first one closest to your hand, the one that's farther away, and you're going to pull that over your knuckle and just pull it. It's going to feel weird, and if it feels weird, that means you're doing it right. And you're going to just keep on doing that to the remaining loops on your main arm. Always pull the loop farthest away from you. Oops. And just pull it out. Again, it's going to feel a little strange. This is how you bind off what you've been stitching. And the very last one, we loop it on and then pull the last one. So you're left with 1 loop. What you want to do then, guys, is you're going to want to go ahead, hang on to that, let it hang out here for a second. You're going to want to go ahead and cut your yarn, give it a little bit of a decent sized tail, and you're actually going to just, I loop it around here just to kind of tie it off, make it kind of a tight tie, and then you now have 2 ends no longer attached to your balls of yarn. And what you want to do is connect the 2. For me, I think it's easiest just to weave them with your fingers, and there's no set way that you need to do this. It's totally up to you. Some people will use knitting needles if they think that it's easier, but for me, I just lay it out in front of me and just kind of weave and tuck. So I just looped that right through, and I'm taking the remaining pieces and just kind of weaving. I like to do it this way because that way you know which part is the back of the scarf, because you have that little knot there where you've just done the binding of all the stitches. Just keep on tucking them away until they're all hidden, or you feel that it's tight enough and you can go ahead and you can cut them off. For me, I feel pretty comfortable with that, so I'm just going to make a little knot. I'm going to cut the excess just so that it's a little bit easier to work with. Again, you can keep winding those little pieces in. And you're just going to do the same over here with the tail that you had when you were working through your stitches. You can just make your knot to tie it off. Cut it, and you have it all connected. So once you're done connecting them, and again, you can connect it however you feel comfortable, whatever pattern you want. I always do different things just because I don't really care about the back. Probably shouldn't say that. But once you have it connected, of course, you have your scarf, your circular infinity scarf, and then you can just kind of double up however you want. This is a shorter one that I did, but I've done some that are 3 loops, a little bit bulkier, whatever you want. So hopefully that really helped you guys either A, get excited to make a scarf, or want to look into it further and help you do it, because this is a really cool thing. Probably would be a great gift if you want to do something with your kids. It's easy enough that a kid could learn how to do it. You could do it in a bunch of different patterns, colors, whatever floats your boat. So enjoy it. Rock out those scarves, and I will talk to you guys soon with something else new and exciting. Bye.